Thanks to the popularity of the Switch and franchises like Splatoon, Nintendo has seemingly turned things around, posting record profits in 2017 and earning goodwill from the gaming community. But despite this, they still seem to make the same basic, simple mistakes over and over. Hopefully they'll eventually figure it all out, but until then, here's a look at some of the things Nintendo is still doing wrong. Not enough product. You're excited to play the Switch. You can't wait to scratch your retro gaming itch with the NES Classic. That Super NES Classic, along with the rediscovered Star Fox 2, is looking mighty fine. Except, no matter how hard you look, you can't find them anywhere, and you're not alone. After being buried by low sales for the Wii U, Nintendo has gotten far too conservative with their pre-order estimates, and the result has been widespread shortages of basically every product since. No matter how great the games might be, they aren't fun if you can't actually play them. We're trying to give you our money, Nintendo. Why won't you take it? The Switch Online. While Microsoft and Sony have offered robust online services for the Xbox and PlayStation consoles for over a decade, the recently released Switch marks Nintendo's first real foray into modern multiplayer gaming. And it's been a disaster, particularly when it comes to voice chat. Instead of supporting chat directly through the console, Switch owners need to download an app on their smartphones, and that app has already had to be patched to fix serious basic mistakes, like shutting off completely if the phone went into sleep mode, or if you used a web browser. It was a baffling and weird design, but Nintendo still expects users to eventually pay $20 a year for the service. Voice chat is a problem that other companies solved years ago. Nintendo, what's the holdup? Where's the Virtual Console? One of the coolest things about the Nintendo Wii and the Wii U and the 3DS was the Virtual Console. For a few bucks, players could download games that originally appeared on Nintendo's older platforms. However, Nintendo made the bizarre decision to leave the Virtual Console off of the Switch, despite widespread demand. And they may never implement it, as they seem to be steering players toward their premium online service, which will offer far fewer retro options. Maybe we're just spoiled, but after more than a decade, we've gotten awfully used to having the Virtual Console around. At this point, taking it away is just cruel. Design flaws. Nintendo makes a handsome piece of hardware, at least when everything works correctly. That isn't always the case. The 3DS's hinges crack after repeated use. The NES Classic's controller cords are inconveniently short. The Switch's docking bay warps the console if it stays inside too long, the battery only lasts 3 paltry hours, and the system's left Joy-Con controller loses its connection if it gets too far away from the base, or if it's near another wireless device, or even a fish tank. And then there's Nintendo's crazy decision to make it impossible to transfer or back up your save data on the Switch. So if your Switch ever breaks, well, you can kiss goodbye all those hundreds of hours exploring Breath of the Wild. Considering how simple and obvious some of these issues are, it's befuddling that Nintendo didn't fix them before the consoles were released. Hiding behind Amiibo. Nintendo's Amiibo are little figurines that interact with games through the 3DS and Switch's RFC scanners. Most of the time, these interactions are just fun additions. But that seems to be changing, as Nintendo has actually begun gating content behind Amiibo. In Metroid Samus Returns, a remake of the Game Boy's Metroid 2 for the 3DS, there's an entire difficulty level you can't access unless you also purchase a specific Metroid Amiibo. So that game you paid to play isn't actually complete unless you buy a totally different accessory to activate key features. Forget microtransactions. Nintendo is introducing the world to macro transactions. So far, fan response can be best described as outrage, so hopefully Nintendo will learn its lesson before they try this again. No clear strategy for the 3DS. When the DS came out in 2004, their Game Boy Advance was already at the top of the handheld market. Nintendo never figured out a viable strategy to allow the two competing devices to coexist, with the predictable outcome that the Game Boy Advance just faded away. Fast forward to the present, where the 3DS was dominating the market until the Switch arrived. Once again, Nintendo is competing with itself by trying to support two different handheld consoles simultaneously. So what's their strategy to keep the 3DS from suffering the same fate as the Game Boy Advance? No, seriously, what's their strategy? We're hoping you know the answer, because we don't, and neither does anybody else. Until fans know, it's impossible to figure out which console to invest time and money into, leaving gamers in an uncomfortable limbo again. Still wishy-washy on esports. Nintendo seems like a natural fit for the esports world. Back in the day, Nintendo Championships pretty much put competitive video gaming on the map to begin with, and Super Smash Bros. Remains a mainstay at big fighting game tournaments. Despite this, though, Nintendo seems reluctant to fully embrace esports. After Gaming Pro's detailed changes they'd like to see in Super Smash Bros., Nintendo of America president Reggie Fils-Aimé said they intend to keep things more casual rather than support official leagues. It's more competitive gaming for the masses as an approach versus thinking about the pro, who's all about big payouts and things of that nature. That's not an area, at least from our own investment standpoint, that's as interesting to us. With esports looming as the next big thing in entertainment, you have to wonder if Nintendo is missing the boat. It certainly wouldn't be the first time. Thanks for watching. Click the SVG icon to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Plus, check out all this cool stuff we know you'll love too.